Hello, here we go. It's the Keifer podcast.
Liverpool won a game of footy. Hello everyone, welcome back to another Keifer podcast. Just have a little chat about last night's 2-0 win over Southampton. I'm Mick, and I'm joined again by Keifer MacDonald. How are you doing, lad?
I'm good. Liverpool haven't ruined my weekend for once. It's nice, isn't it, to be talking about a win. Thiago scored, perfect remedy. So, yeah, fingers crossed that we can continue that.
Yeah, I mean, he's in here straight away looking for this. He's in. There you go, lad. Thiago, get in. What a fucking goal. But yeah, we'll come to that a bit later on. Yeah, it feels nice just to win. I mean, I was looking at the form table earlier, and it's like we've last 5 games or last 6 games, I think we're undefeated in 6. Like, we think we've won 4 and drawn 2, which is like, it doesn't feel real, that does it? I don't know. Like, stats are a bit mad in a way because they do obviously tell the truth, but it just doesn't feel like that's the truth at the minute, does it?
No, not at all. Especially depends how you interpret them. Like, from how we were at the start of 2021, you probably take 6 unbeaten, but just the manner in which they've come in. The Leeds game, the Newcastle game. Such late sucker punches, and last night it felt like it was going to be another one of those, didn't it? Like, they didn't offer much Southampton, but it felt like they were all kind of, like I think I said it a couple of weeks ago on here, that like every team now follows that blueprint. If they hang in for 85 minutes, they'll get that one chance. And to be fair, I'm just thankful that Danny Ings wasn't playing last night, because I'm sure he would have put a few of those to bed. But I wouldn't say we got away with it, because I think, it was, again, we were kind of architects of our own downfall because we didn't take our chances. But, it was nice to kind of, just get that second goal late on and kind of ease any nerves that were going into the final few minutes.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, if Ings was playing, and I think I spoke to a few Southampton fans yesterday, and they were saying if they had Ings, they probably would have won, and they would have at least got one, wouldn't they? They had so many, especially that first half. I think it was Teller had a good header, didn't he? Teller had a good header, fucking hell. And they had a few good chances, to be fair. And Alisson, I was just going to come on to Alisson. He was a big positive last night, weren't he? I think he made 6 saves, which is like the most he's made ever in a Premier League game. That is just, it's not a high amount, but it just seems like a small amount. And everything he did apart from obviously nearly fucking playing someone in with a perfect assist. He was great last night, weren't he?
Yeah, he was good. I mean, it's been a mixed season, hasn't it, for everyone? And I think Alisson's, his form's kind of dipped. Early in 2021, he had that game against City, he had the kind of Leicester mistake. So, last night it was nice to just see him, be the hero for once, because he's kind of been, under quite harsh scrutiny in, like I say, in recent months. So for him to kind of put that performance in, like you say, the most saves I think he's made since he's joined Liverpool in a Premier League game, it was really, really good. Apart from, like you say, that one when he gave it to Che Adams, and then you're just thinking like, Liverpool are just going to shoot themselves in the foot again, but they didn't. They hung on. Thiago scored. We won. Top 4 seems ever closer. So yeah, it's nice. It's a nice Sunday for once.
Yeah, well, I think that's why we're a bit late recording, because me and you were having a chat about all the different variables for about 5 minutes, and I was getting myself hyped up for a small miracle of getting top 4. But yeah, let's talk about that. Obviously, Alisson was boss, but that he made that big save, and then we go down the other end and score pretty much. I think it was like 50 seconds later or something like that. But and another weird stat: it was the first link up in the league between Salah and Mane this season, which I think that says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's kind of this like narrative, isn't there? They don't like each other for one way or another, and I think, I certainly, if you'd said to me how many assists they had to each other this season, I would have probably said, maybe a handful. But for it to be their first kind of assist, it kind of probably highlights Liverpool's problems. They haven't been the same, animal in the final third that they've been in the past 2 or 3 seasons, and the front 3, they haven't been linking up as well. Whether that's because Firmino's, not playing at his peak that we've seen. But yeah, that goal last night, that first goal was, fantastic. Like you say, Alisson saved 40, 50 seconds beforehand, and then to go up the other end, it was just kind of those small moments, isn't it, that kind of define your seasons. And it feels like in recent weeks we've been on the wrong end of those. We've had a chance and then someone's gone down the other end and scored a goal or got a penalty, and it just feels like that was massive last night. The whole kind of win, but in the way that we got it, it wasn't. We did have to hang on, but then to kind of, break away and get that kind of second goal even. I wish it was a third, but to get that second goal was really, really nice.
Yeah, and I seen another stat from Michael Reed on Twitter. It was Mo Salah's 12th assist for Mane, 3 more than any other player that he's assisted for Liverpool. Which is, I mean, there's this, like you said, there's this whole narrative, isn't it, that they don't get on with each other and they don't pass to each other. And I think it's just Salah doesn't pass to him because he is he's a greedy player in front of goal. He wants to score goals. That's what goal scorers do. And I think Mane just thinks, well, if you're not going to pass to me, fuck it, I'm going to do the same, doesn't he? But it's all about if they feel like the chance is on, you've got to go for it, haven't you? And I think that's kind of what we've got to do, especially at the minute when we're missing a load of chances. You've got to fucking just have a shot on goal and hope for the best at the minute.
Yeah, I think especially like you say in the final final third of the season, we haven't been clinical. It seems that especially with Mane, obviously he's been one of those that have had a massive dip. Just feels like he hasn't got that kind of ruthlessness about him anymore. I think we saw a couple of weeks ago against Villa, he comes on, he has that 1-on-1, he has so much time to think about it straight into the keeper's hands. So I think Mane and Salah this season, they're probably taking one or two more touches and doing things that they wouldn't normally do because there's a bit more pressure. They're highlighted a bit more, and I think especially the whole kind of this kind of narrative that they don't get on. I find it bizarre because someone like Salah, he's a goal scorer, isn't he? That's what he wants to do, as you said. He wants to be winning golden boots, and whether he's got to go past his teammates, kind of thing. That's what Salah does. It's like with any good strikers. Look at Harry Kane, how selfish he is. But when Harry Kane does it, he's kind of like he gets praised because it's his kind of elite mentality. But when if Salah's, he's been our best player this season, whether people want to admit it or not. Where Liverpool would be without Salah's goals is scary to think about. And you can say that for last season and the season before. So as long as he keeps putting them in the back of the net, I'm not really too asked about how many he sets up for the other two.
Yeah, exactly. Another assist yesterday, and he's banging in the goals, isn't he? So it's just we need to. There's 4 games left now, and obviously Thiago got that goal towards the end, which killed the game off, which was obviously boss for his first goal, and it kind of, like we were touching on before we started recording, like it's going to need a small miracle, isn't it? Like now you're just looking at the games, like West Ham play Everton later. We're open for an Everton result there, which feel dirty saying.
Dirty.
Then there's Tuesday, there's fucking Leicester versus United, isn't it? So we're hoping for a United win, and then we play them 2 days later, and I'm hoping to beat them. So it's just, I think I'm hoping we haven't left it too late, but it does feel like that at the minute, doesn't it? Especially with the Leeds and the Newcastle performances and results, that we should have got some more from those results.
Yeah, the Newcastle one especially, that was really, really sour. I think obviously because the goal gets disallowed, 2 or 3 minutes before, Willock scores, it's kind of like the warning was literally there, the red flag was there, and we still failed to kind of deal with it. It's just so many strange situations, like you say. It's kind of at this point of the season now, I think Liverpool just need to kind of, as hard as it is, just focus on themselves, win those 4 games left, and just see where that takes them. If Everton, United or whoever's playing who can do us favours. Because I think next week Chelsea play Leicester, don't they, just before the FA Cup final or just after? So, all of a sudden you want Chelsea to win again because it looks like, they've probably secured top 4. But I think if Liverpool can get to 69 points, I think it is the most we can get to. If they can get to that, and I think that I'd like to say it would be enough. Obviously, a win at Old Trafford is going to be in there if you're going to get to 69 points. I think that's a massive statement in itself. But like I said, there's so many different variables, especially, even with United's game today, if they draw to Villa somehow, then all of a sudden they've got to go and beat Leicester. They've really got to, put the pressure on, kind of thing. And then it gets to us, and that's probably the game that they're probably going to rotate. But just in terms of, like, obviously the United game being called off about what last week, I think that might have done Liverpool a favour, actually, not only because of the kind of the fixture congestion it gives United, but I think that kind of break from the Newcastle game, it was painful because it kind of still lingers. But I think it's kind of like it felt like a mini international break, didn't it? Because we didn't play for 2 weeks. So it kind of gives you that focus. It was, you can focus. You've got 4 games left, 5 games left, however many we had, and you just go for them. Because we haven't done that since the last international break. We've kind of been up and down. So I think to kind of have that week off last week, and then, you've got 4 or 5 games left on paper, you can kind of manage it and just go for like a short, sharp burst and hopefully get over the line and secure top 4 for next season.
Yeah, because someone's just put on Twitter there, "Hi lads, apparently United plan another mass protest for our game. We shouldn't turn up." I
saw that just before I came on. Yeah,
if that happens, then
surely it's 3 points, isn't it?
Give us, that'll be First one at Old Trafford.
I was about to say, I might go down to Old Trafford.
Yeah, just keep doing them. We're fucking shit at Old Trafford. So yeah, go ahead. Be my guest. That's
it's mental, isn't it? You'd think with everything that happened last week, I don't know what the kind of rules and regulations are, but I'm surprised that I think if it was any other team, if it wasn't Liverpool United, you'd probably see the 3 points get awarded. But because it's kind of, the money, the Premier League or Sky Sports would probably lose out. They're probably, thought, right, we'll give it another go. But I think if that happens again, like you say, surely it gets to that point where the congestion is literally, I think it's the final weekend before the season, isn't it? Liverpool play 3 times over the next week after United, so there'd be nowhere to fit it in before the season ends. So you'd probably just think that hopefully we'd get the 3 points, which would be pretty odd, wouldn't it? To take another weird turn in this weird season.
I know, that'll just be another, like you said, another thing where you just remember that season where everything was shit and Liverpool was shit and there was no fans, and then we got 3 points at Old Trafford even though we didn't kick a ball. It's just like that season was fucking mad. That'll just be another notch on that season. But Chris has just said earlier, actually, let me have a look for it. Chris put a comment in about Kabak. News Kabak back for Man United. It's not his fault, but young Reece Williams isn't ready. But he's only a kid. Yeah, I think I'm hoping and praying, obviously, if the United game does go ahead, that Kabak is ready. I think last night, Reece Williams and Nat Phillips done okay. I mean, Alisson making the most saves he's ever done in a Premier League game.
Says a lot,
doesn't it? But they were all right. It's just a turn of pace, isn't it? I think Kabak's, he's not absolutely rapid, but he's got a little bit of pace. He's
got recovery pace, hasn't he? Especially when you leave that high line, he can. He's not got the pace of Joe Gomez or a Van Dijk, but I think you saw it a few times with that first save Alisson made just before the goal. When they play it across the box, I think Reece Williams gets caught out, doesn't he? Theo Walcott plays that ball in behind him, and he looks like he's running with a tyre strapped to him. Do you know what I mean? Which is, like I say, he's a good defender, and you kind of forget how young he is because we've seen so much of him this season. And the same for Nat Phillips. He's obviously not as young, but he's so inexperienced in a sense. So it's not, they'll have good careers wherever they go. I'm sure they'll play probably Premier League football. We know whether it be kind of bottom end or whatever, but. I would really, hope that Kabak is fit because I think that makes a massive difference, especially if you think of the pace United have got. Okay, not in Cavani, but with Rashford, Martial, Greenwood. If he gets a run out, I'd probably be fearing the worst against if it was Williams and Phillips.
Yeah, and I think Kabak's shown, hasn't he? I think he was written off quite early, wasn't he? When it looked like he was turning in treacle a few times, and I think he was just a bit nervous. And I think he's getting better every game, in my opinion. I think we played Newcastle. There was a couple of times where when Wilson came on, he tried to knock it round him and run, and Kabak was just there the whole way, not letting him round. He's strong, he's quick, and I'm hoping that maybe yesterday was a minor injury, but also kind of just to give him enough time to get himself fully prepared. I mean, he probably could have made it, I reckon, but I reckon Klopp's just thinking, well, we need to keep this fella wrapped in cotton wool ready for this game on Thursday. Yeah,
I think Klopp said on Friday in his press conference a few bumps and bruises. He didn't say anything of significant kind of injuries. So like you say, if you're kind of looking at the fixtures on paper, you're looking at United and Southampton. Well, you're obviously going to rest him for Southampton in the hope that he is going to be 100% fit for United. So I think you're spot on there. Hopefully, it is a bit of just a precaution. But yeah, with Kabak, I'd be really disappointed, to be honest, if we didn't sign him. I really do like the look of him. I think like you say, he's not the quickest, but I think he understands the game really well, and he kind of makes up for it in his head, doesn't he, with his decision making and kind of his positional awareness. Obviously just talk about that Canate coming in, whatever. But I'd be all over Kabak, really. He's been here 6 months now, or 5 months, whatever. You think he's only going to get better. He's so young, and if you think next season you put him next to like a Van Dijk, or even if he's third choice, if it depends what happens with Matip, whatever. But we both know that Matip and Gomez aren't the most reliable. So if you kind of interchanging in between the two of them with Van Dijk, you think he's only going to get better, isn't he? Alongside someone like that who's got the recovery pace and can play a bit better. I think we'd really see him blossom next season.
Yeah, I think you could play Klopp alongside Van Dijk, and Klopp would look like fucking Baresi. Like Van Dijk's that good, isn't he? So,
yeah, it's silly.
Yeah, Kabak. That's if we bring Canate in as well, there's so many options there. And I think even if you keep Phillips around, because I think there's been a few comments that Doug's just said, Nat Phillips has been our most consistent defender this season. He was boss again yesterday, wasn't he? He was just, I think, won 7 out of 7 aerial duels, as you'd expect. But he's just a beast. And there was a couple of times where he was having to go at Alisson for his kicking, out from the back, saying basically, "What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah,
it's
a mad story, isn't it? Phillips is like his whole kind of how he got released from Bolton. You think, so you see it, with players, go under the radar kind of thing, and they get released by clubs. But you think, how has he not kind of been picked up before? If you know what I mean? Because he's, even when he was at Stuttgart, like obviously I didn't watch him at Stuttgart last year, but I remember he came back for the Merseyside derby, and I wasn't really expecting anything from him, and he was great in that game. And then all of a sudden he just gets shipped out back on loan to Stuttgart, and kind of don't see him again. So I'm surprised that it's taken this long. I think is he 24 now, 23? It's 23, 24, I think, about that age, isn't he? And it's kind of think now he's only starting to kind of rack up Premier League games. But, even if Liverpool do decide to cash in on him this summer, you'd probably be looking at a decent amount of money. I think he's got 2 years left, is he, on his contract, or maybe 3? I'm not sure. But you'd probably get a decent fee for him, which is, another positive, especially in a pandemic era. But the thing as well with centre-halves for next season, I think you've got to also be realistic with Van Dijk. Is he going to come in and play the 50 games, especially if it is Europa League? Is Van Dijk going to go and play, 45, 50 games, after coming back from an ACL injury? Probably not. Then there's always that stat, isn't there? You're like 50% more likely to do your other ACL after you've done one ACL. So, he's going to have little knocks, he's going to have little setbacks, and he's also not, you imagine him and Gomez aren't going to come back and be, especially we've seen with Gomez before, he's like Chamberlain, he takes a lot of time to get up and running, I always feel like. And Van Dijk might be the same. So I think, the more options you've got, especially if the fixture schedule's, going to be quite hectic, it would make sense to sign him. I think it's 20 million as well. It'd just be a bit of a no-brainer, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I think that, like you said, there's going to be a lot of risks around those two you mentioned, and also Matip as well, if Matip stays around. And I've seen James Pearce do an interview a few weeks ago saying that he thinks that Liverpool might keep 5 centre-halves for next season, just to kind of, just ensure that we're not having another one of these seasons where
you'd think it's, especially obviously like with Lovren going last year, as much as kind of people have their opinions on him, like he would have been good to have around this year. He's not a bad defender. Okay, he's not Premier League, top 2 quality as what Liverpool are competing for the past 2 or 3 years, but he could easily do a job. We've seen in top 4 run-ins before, and I think he thrives on. We've seen with Lovren. I think he kind of has this in his head, doesn't he, that he thinks he's a lot better than he is. So I think he would have thrived being like the senior centre half, playing alongside a Phillips or alongside a Williams or a Kabak. So. And I think, like you say, you have 4 centre-halves normally. Van Dijk's one of those. So I think it would make perfect sense to sign 5, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
or to have 5 even, not sign 5 more.
Sign 5 as well if you want. We'll have 9. We'll have all 10. That'll be sound. That'll keep us. That'll make sure we've definitely got a centre-half fit. Fucking Kabak and Davis injured for yesterday, so that was just typical.
Davis is a mad one, isn't it? I still can't get my head quite around that. Seems like I said it a couple of weeks ago. It seems like a really dodgy money laundering scheme, doesn't it?
Yeah, sign them for cheap, and then it makes good business sense. But
I don't think Liverpool are that desperate though to make. You're probably going to make 2 or 3 million on him if you sell to like a Celtic or whatever. And Liverpool, you think probably what they've been paying him is probably on like 30 grand a week. So like you've paid him 30 grand a week you've probably paid him 600,000 in wages by the time the summer comes. Like you're probably going to make 2.5 million. Like the Liverpool really need him on their books for 6 months to make 2.5 million. You know what I mean? When they can go and make 20 million off of Phillips straight away.
It's a bit of like an episode of Bargain Hunt or something, isn't it, where they're trying to get like a tenner on like an old vase or something. It doesn't really make sense for a club the size of Liverpool. But yeah, if we make a bit more, then yeah, fair enough, and we send them on his way and we get some money and we put it towards Canate. But I've just, before we move on to, obviously, let's go on to United a little bit. Doug's put a comment in here. Would you guys play the same team versus United? Maybe Kabak for Reece and Firmino for Jota? And I think Chris said as well earlier, let me just see. There we go. Attacking issues compounded by Jota now not scoring in his last 6. It's a weird one, isn't it? Because I put a tweet up last night about Jota having, I think I put like, can't hit the fucking barn door itis or something like that as a joke. Loads of Wolves fans going, oh, we told you this. We told you he'd score a few and then he'd go off the boil. Like, fucking sad bastards. But yeah, would you drop Jota for United, or would it be like a kind of take him out the firing line and put Bobby back in?
I think it says a lot, doesn't it? Obviously, we saw the team sheets be put in for United last week, so obviously we saw Klopp was planning with the front three as normal. So it probably says a lot that he played Jota last night with United kind of in the back of his mind kind of thing. So I think we will see the front three. To be fair, like, obviously he's not been what he was. Obviously, he set himself like a really high standard, prior to injury, and even when he came back from injury, he was doing really well. But I think last night, I think he started brightly last night. He kind of created a few chances, and like you say, he didn't obviously score or do anything of that kind of nature, but he wasn't absolutely awful. Like, we've seen in recent weeks with Mane when he's been really off the boil and he's just ineffective, and you forget he's playing at times. It feels like we're playing with 10, but I thought Jota, he's always kind of a hindrance for the opposition. He's always trying to create something, or always trying to run in behind, or spin and pop a shot off. So yeah, from that perspective, I don't think it's too much to worry about. Especially fingers crossed goals can start coming from midfield, because I think that's been a bigger problem this year. We've had next to nothing from midfield. But regarding United, I would go the front three. Mane, Firmino, Salah. I would obviously put Kabak, if he's fit in for Williams, and then fingers crossed you can have Fabinho in midfield, and I think he'll probably stick Milner in it if he is fit. Obviously, we saw that. That's what he was planning on playing, because whether that's trying to phase Wijnaldum out now. You'd still argue he's a really, really important player. But I think last night I said it. I said that it on like 70 minutes, it was perfect for Milner to come on. Obviously, he wasn't fit, but I just think sometimes the games, you just need that bit of professionalism. And when you don't have Henderson and you don't have Milner, you can see it gets like a bit of a basketball game, doesn't it? And it goes end to end, and it's not nice. You just need someone to put a challenge in, or literally boot it into like the centenary stand, you know what I mean? And no one's capable of doing that when you've not got Henderson or Milner. So I think he will go with Milner from the start at Old Trafford. So that would probably be the one change I would do.
Yeah. And touching on Milner and Hendo, what annoys me as well is when they're not there. When one of our lads gets snapped, there's no one in the referee's face going, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like Mane. He needs to break his leg in 4 places to get a foul against him. I'm convinced. Like, there's a few where his momentum's took him over, but I just can't wait for next year when they'll be given all the time at Anfield. And I mean, it's not cheating, but we do get a lot more fouls when we've got fans in the stadium, because the referees are swaying. I just think they go the opposite way when there's no fans there. They just think, "Oh, I can get away with this one sound." It's like
it's like the Sterling Rudiger one. If there's a full Etihad there, that's a penalty every single. Like, I can't believe it wasn't a penalty. But if there's 50,000 Mancunians screaming at whoever the referee was yesterday, they get a penalty there late in the game. And like you say, those kind of borderline ones, the referees don't want to make the decision. They don't want to make a cock up, so they kind of just think, "Oh, we'll leave it as." Like you say, when there's no Henderson, no Milner, it feels like we're massively lacking leadership. Obviously, we do have leaders still on the pitch, but it just kind of feels like, like someone who get in the referee's face and make him give the foul kind of thing. And I just think, like you say, I just think we're massively lacking that.
Yeah, and I think, like, Robbo's good at it. You always hear Robbo screaming, but at left back, he's sometimes a bit too far away to just grab the referee by the neck and go, "What the fuck are you doing? Give us a foul." But I was speaking to Chris actually last night on. Have you ever done one of these Twitter Spaces things where you have you make like a little conversation and you can have like a little chat with loads of people on your Twitter account? I've done one of those last night for the first time.
I think I've seen them.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, but I got used to it in the end. But we were having a little chat. Like, I think it was like midnight last night, to be honest, when I was just sitting on the couch, and I thought, I'll give this a go. But he was saying last night that looks like no Milner until next week, which will rule him out of Man United, which is a shame, like I said, because we do miss that when he's not there. But going back to Hot a little bit, Gamerborn just said this is moving unit on Twitter. If you haven't gone and checked out his stuff, please go and do that, because he's got some boss stuff going. But he said Jota only gone off boil because of the injury. He'll be back and consistent. Which is, I think he's got 8 goals in 16 games in the league this year, which is like 1 every 2 for a player who was out for 3 months from December to March. It's a good return, isn't it? And he's bound to go through, just coming back from injury, he's bound to go through little spells where like last night, for example, where I think Mane back heels it, he's through on goal. And if he hits that anywhere, but apart from down the keeper's throat, we're going, what a goal. It's those fine margins, isn't it, between him being classed as a going off the boil and him finding a goal to win us the game.
I think especially as well because none of the front three, the others are really creating it. It's not like we're winning 3 or 4-0, and it's kind of like at the minute every chance that's missed, you're scrutinising. You know what I mean? And you're thinking, whether it be Leeds, Newcastle, or whoever you're playing, and you kind of think, you're looking at all the chances from those games, thinking, how have we not put one of those away? Especially that Newcastle game was just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that, and it was just so inevitable. So I think, especially when we're not doing as well as a kind of a collective, everything obviously is intensified. It's so not knee-jerk, but like everything's got to be so extreme one way or the other, hasn't it? You can't just, there's no kind of rationale behind anything anymore. So, but in terms of Jota, it's a good season considering he was brought in as fourth choice. And there was a lot of eyebrows raised when we kind of paid the fee that we did. So, and like you say, with the injury as well, and he's carried Liverpool at times, hasn't he? This season he really has, and we missed him massively when he got that injury in the Champions League. So, it's been a good season for him. Like you say, I think he can look back with positives, and hopefully, like you say, next season, if Mane and Firmino, those kind of the two kind of more creators of the front three, if they're kind of in better form, creating a bit more chances, and you think as well with the fullbacks, and hopefully with Henderson coming back into midfield, the fullbacks will have more freedom. We'll see better creativity there. So I think it's just been like we said it all along, hasn't it? It's been a mad season. There's been so many variables. You can't hang your hat on one thing. I think that goes for a lot of the players' form. What's it down to? Are we that reliant on the fullbacks? To score goals? Is it something deeper than that? Is it just a mad season, a one-off? Are they just fatigued? So it'll be interesting to see next season, like I say, especially when he has a kind of a full season. With fingers crossed, no injuries, and I think we'll be able to make a better judgment on him then.
Yeah, and he's only young, isn't he? He's only what? Is he 24?
Forget how young he's 24. Yeah, you forget how young he is, don't you? It feels like he's been around for a good couple of years. He's and he's always scored goals for Wolves, and it feels like every time I watch him in the Europa League, he was banging a hat trick. So
that's what I mean. I was looking at stats earlier for him, because like I was saying, those Wolves fans were saying some stuff. So I thought I'll have a little dig on Wikipedia, see what I can find. I think he got his highest in the league for Wolves is 9, so he's one off that, and he's played 16 games. So that just proves, what he can bring, and it's an option, and he's a young fella, and he's getting used to how we play, and that's only going to, like you said, Keith, it's only going to be better and more intense next year when we've got a proper midfield, a proper defence, fullbacks flying forward with no thought of going the other way and defending. It's just I can't wait for the carnage. I can't.
I think it's similar to Mane as well, isn't it? When he came, everyone was kind of a bit like, oh, why? I think I remember the same summer United signed Mkhitaryan, and everyone was like laughing, like, why have you signed him? You've paid this amount of money, whatever. And it felt like at Southampton, Mane was always he was a player who performed in patches. He'd have a really good patch, and then he'd go off the boil for 6, 7, 8 games or whatever. And obviously, while he's been at Liverpool, he's had those patches, but they've been they haven't been as often. So he scored like 20 goals a couple of times in his years at Liverpool. And obviously we're playing with better players, like you say, playing with Salah's, playing with Firmino's, getting better service. And I think it'll be the same with Jota. He'll become more ruthless, as he grows into this team over the next year or 18 months. I'm sure, it won't be long before saying he's got 20 goals, 25 goals in a season. If next season is Firmino's last year, you've got a ready-made replacement kind of there. Okay, he doesn't do all the kind of intricacies that Firmino does, but in terms of everyone's kind of crying out for like a kind of a clinical number 9, so to speak, I think you've got one maybe on your books already. We can see when he plays down the middle, he does score goals. So yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see how that one plays out.
Yeah, and I think this season is going to be quite key, isn't it? Because I was also on that Twitter Spaces last night. We were talking about all the fringe players like Ox, and then Shaqiri and Origi, and then maybe Harvey Elliott coming back. And what do you reckon about Harvey Elliott? Would you?
He's great, isn't he?
Would you thrust him straight back into this squad? I think it's pretty much 50-50 on whether you want him to go back on loan, maybe to another Premier League team, or have him in the squad. I'd have him in the squad definitely next year.
I think it depends what happens with top 4, because I think if you get Europa League game, you've probably guaranteed 10 games before Christmas, with 6 in the Europa League. You've probably got a few in the League Cup and whatever kind of competition they probably introduce next season. He's probably going to get 10 games before Christmas. Until it probably gets out the latter stages of the Europa League, you don't really rotate, because there's 50, 60 rounds, isn't there? It just goes on for absolutely ever. That competition is just. So I think if we get Europa League, I'd be more than happy to see him, try his luck kind of in there. I think it's a difficult one, because in the league, it's kind of, because he is so he is small, isn't he? And obviously he's kind of got that low center of gravity. I don't want to compare him to Messi, but you know what I mean? In the kind of way that he runs, like that goal he scored yesterday. Did you see? Did you see that goal he scored yesterday? The chip. And he just ridiculous, isn't it?
He's class.
Like, if you squint, it's like you're watching Messi. It really is. It's like obviously in the Championship, he's obviously had to kind of not beef up a bit, but he'll be used to like grown men kicking him and, you know, wanting to just like break him into like loads and loads and loads of pieces. So I think from that perspective, you know, he could be, because the Premier League's obviously a lot more tactical, isn't it? You know, you better players rise to the top. In the Championship, it's, you know, just not brute force, but you know what I mean? Skills not as high kind of thing. So it'd be interesting to see what Klopp does with him. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go out on loan, but it depends. It doesn't really feel like there's a lot of teams that would suit him, if you know what I mean, because I think once you get kind of, you know, maybe below like 10th in the Premier League or something like that, kind of there's a lot of teams that are very similar. And how many teams play like Liverpool? If you want to, you know, you've put them into that Blackburn side this season and you've kind of just said, you know, just go and attack. That's what kind of Tony Mowbray's kind of said to him. But if you say, you know, say he ends up at like a, God forbid, like a Burnley or someone like 15th and below, I don't really see the point in that, because someone like Sean Dyche is probably going to not play him, is he? Because he knows what he wants. And I just think the Prem's a lot more ruthless because there's a lot more at stake. So I would like to see him go out on loan again, maybe, but I don't see a lot of suitors. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him, you know, rack up 15, 20 games next season.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few options. I mean, like, I think Southampton, I mean, because fucking Ralph Hasenhüttl, he fucking adores Klopp, doesn't he? So everything Klopp does, he does. Wears a hat, yeah, he does it as well. Loads of emotion, yeah, go for it. So even like a Southampton, would maybe be a good option for him. But I just want to see him. I'm the same. I want to see him stick around just because I just want to see how good he is in the league. I want to see him up against the best players. I want to see what he's been doing for Blackburn. And I know, like you said, it's going to be difficult for him and more difficult in this league. But I feel like he's got that quality, and even like in the like the tip of a 3 in a midfield, or maybe like a false 9. I think dropping in deep and playing those through balls that he's done. So I think he got 11 assists in his Blackburn.
He reminds me of, like, obviously I said Messi, but he does remind me of Grealish, like obviously on the other side kind of thing. Like he could kind of play that deep, you know, when Grealish plays kind of like off the midfield 3 or something. Yeah. You know, obviously he plays off the left, doesn't he, Grealish? But, you know, you can play him off the right of a midfield 3. I don't think, especially when he's got kind of options, when he's running towards defences front on, and you know, he's got runners going left, right and through the middle. I think that's where, you know, you probably see the best of him. But so it'll be really interesting, because I'm the same. I don't know how. Obviously, he's going to be a fantastic talent, but I just want to see him do it in a Liverpool shirt and be like, all right, he's the real deal. Do you know what I mean? Because it's exciting. And like you've seen with like Mason Greenwood, you've seen with like loads of players like that. Even Dele Alli when he came, you know, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Age is just a number, as cliche as it sounds. Like if you literally are good enough, you're old enough, aren't you? And he obviously has a belief, doesn't he, in himself? He clearly backs himself. And obviously Klopp's spoken saying he's a massive fan of him. So he probably will stick around next season, to be fair. It probably says Liverpool going out and buying, you know, another attacker for what purpose? Because, you know, Origi probably gets shipped on. You think Minamino will probably get shipped on. You know, Harry Wilson, he'll come back. He'll get shipped on. So it'd make sense to keep Elliott. He'd learn a lot, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think Chris just said that. I think Elliott goes on Prem loan if we make the Champions League. If we're in the Europa League, I think he stays. So pretty much what you just said. But yeah, just selfishly, I want him to stay around, because I don't want to. I mean, it's just everyone's been like swooning, haven't they, over these assists and the goal, like the goal. Was it yesterday? Was yesterday, wasn't it? The chip? Or was it? Yes. That's just stuff like that. You just want to see that on a Liverpool shirt, and like a full Anfield, and him running to the cop and like just giving it loads, and that. That's what we want to see. So
it's great as well, because obviously he's not from Liverpool. He's a London lad, isn't he? But obviously he's made it clear he's a Liverpool fan. I think I saw something the other day. See that tattoo he got, didn't he? That
seen that.
So obviously he clearly gets it. He clearly wants to play for Liverpool, and that obviously, like I say, he's not a Trent. He's not, you know, he's not from like an L4 postcode or whatever, but he gets it. Do you know what I mean? He does get it to an extent, and that's always nicer, isn't it? You know, he's like one of your own.
Yeah, because that's, I mean, he definitely, like you said, he gets it. He's a. It's a bit mad saying like a boy, you should be saying like about a player, like a boy of fan should be a good thing, but it's just so tarnished, isn't it, by players joining a club going, oh yeah, I supported these when I was in the womb.
There's no evidence of it, is there? But there's been loads of things. Like, I think he was in Kiev, wasn't he? And I remember, I think it was Everton in the cup last year. And Jones scored the winner, and I'm sure Harvey Elliott played from the off that day, and he must have been 16 at the time, actually. And I remember there was a corner at the Kop end, and he got the ball, and he just kind of gave it the big one. And he's a 16-year-old lad, and I was just looking at him thinking, "Fucking hell!" Like, he's living the dream. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just great.
Yeah, and then you think back to what you were doing at 16, like, fucking hell, you're a lucky bastard.
Shameless.
But he is a wizard, isn't he? He's just so good, and I can't wait to. Well, I mean, touched on other players doing it like Greenwood, and there's Foden as well. Foden's just different class, isn't he? So if you give these type of players a platform, I think he's the type of character as well to grasp it with both hands and kind of go, right, fuck this is my chance, I'm going to take it.
I think as well, like, especially if you do send him out on loan, I think we've seen it with, obviously you can argue how good he was, but we saw with Ben Woodburn when he got sent out to Sheffield United, he was doing all right at Liverpool before that, and it kind of crushed his confidence because, he didn't get in the side. Chris Wilder didn't fancy him for whatever reason. And then he went to Oxford, didn't he? And he struggled there. And he's kind of just, obviously last night he was in the squad for like the first time in 2 years, wasn't he? Since that Barca game, I think it was. And it's kind of he's just fallen off a cliff. And obviously there is a good player in there. And I think it kind of brings the whole up, with the Pep and Foden thing. It's like Pep obviously clearly thought he was better off, lingering around and kind of learning from your David Silvas and so on and so forth. And obviously it's paid dividends. I mean, you only have to look what he did to PSG over 2 legs, to Dortmund over 2. Do you know what I mean? He's unbelievable, Phil Foden is. So I think from that perspective, you can argue that it's probably more beneficial to stick around and kind of learn from the manager, learn from the squad, grasp your chance when you get it, and see where you go from there.
Yeah, I'm firmly on the keeping Harvey Elliott bandwagon. I'm going to keep banging that drum for as long as I can until
hashtag going.
Hashtag Harvey Elliott today. But game of porn. Fucking hell. Game of porn. Don't think there would be that much difference between having Elliott replace Shaqiri in the squad if you look at the impact Shaq's over the last couple of years. Yeah, it's true. But fucking hell, we're getting on for 36 minutes here. Let's leave it there. I've just seen a comment from Ben Brady. Dead quick. Plan B next season is either I'm taking Callum Wilson for 10 minutes all day. What you reckon? He's quality, like, isn't he? To be fair, but I just don't know if it's something that. Yeah, I don't know.
He's had his injury problems, hasn't he? He's had a lot of injury problems. Why has he been at Bournemouth? Why has he been at Newcastle? I think he's missed like 2 or 3 months this season. I mean, I was saying it to my mate last night. Like, I'll be surprised if he doesn't. He won't go, but I'm surprised that he won't be going to the Euros. You know what I mean? Because he's a different option, isn't he? He's kind of that raw pacing behind, but I think he's getting on now, isn't he? I think like late 20s, and that pace or that yarder pace will probably start to drift over the next couple of years. And, so I probably wouldn't, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, he is a good player, but I just can't. I mean, if it happened, I'd be like, another quality player. Who I don't
think Newcastle would settle either. He only signed last summer, didn't he? I don't think they'd be looking to. They'd probably be relegated without his goals. So.
Yeah, they'd be absolutely fucked. But yeah, we'll leave it there because there's loads of comments. Nice one, everyone, for jumping in. I couldn't actually go through them all. And sorry to Game of Bond for calling you Game of Porn. Might have to clip that and put it on Twitter because that is just classic Mick being a knobhead. Fucking hell. Nice one, Keifer, for jumping on, and nice one to everyone in the comments. We'll be back. When will we be back? Wednesday? Yeah, maybe Wednesday for the Man United preview. Actually, I'll be back tomorrow because let's do a little plug for the new show tomorrow. There's a new show with me and Michael Reid from Opta. He's like a footy editor for Opta. So I'm going to do like a little stats show on Saturday and in general the rest of the season. I mean, most of the stats might not be very good. Most of them will probably be shit about how we haven't been scoring and all kinds, but I can't wait to get stuck into that. And then we'll be back on Wednesday, actually, now it's all coming back to me, alongside Neil Jones from Goal. So that'll be a good one. So nice one to Keifer again. Nice one to everyone in the comments. Nice one to Game of Porn especially. And and you'll see us next time.